free to join. I just started the recording. Alessia, the floor is yours.
Yes. Let me share my screen. Okay, share. So, and now you should see my screen in full screen. Perfect. Okay, so I'm Alessia Bardi. I'm a researcher in computer science, and I'm working for the OpenAIRE infrastructure. And OpenAIRE was born as the open access infrastructure for research in Europe. We started as an FP7 project, then we got funding from the H2020 funding program of the European Commission. And since a couple of years, OpenAIRE is an organization, a European organization based in Greece. And its goal is promoting and supporting advancements in open science. So in the previous presentation made by Gina, you heard about an introduction to open science, and we saw that the goal of open science is to have reproducible research, a transparent evaluation of the research process, and go beyond the publication-centric reward policies that are in place. And at the same time, open science pushes to maximize the innovation potential and the impact to society. On the left, you can see some of the main open science practices. So open access to publications, sharing all types of research products, the definition of data management plans to ensure that data is not buried on a USB drive and then lost. Another practice is the one of describing the research outputs with rich metadata, including links between the resources that have been used and produced. And different communities may have specific practices in place or specific challenges that are seen as barriers towards the implementation of open science. So its objectives are not yet achieved, or at least not fully. Okay. So the NRMAPS Gateway aims at supporting the research community in the energy field to address these challenges and overcome the problems you may have. So, for example, the problem of discovering research products to reuse, which is becoming harder and harder due to the data and the literature deluge, and to the fact that there is no single entry point to the record of research of the community. Products are deposited in a number of different locations, different repositories or journals, and you might not know their existence, or you might not have access to them. Because there are, the paywalls, for example, that Gina was discussing before. And this not only hinders discovery for reuse, but also discovery for reporting. So if you are a project manager, for example, you wish you had a complete list of the outputs of the projects without having to chase all project partners at the last minute. And if you're working in a funding organizations, for example, you want to know which are the outputs of the project you fund, because you want to know the impact that you have on the research landscape. So with the gateway, we give the community the opportunity to collaboratively create and track the record of the research in the energy field. And here you can see the link to the gateway. When we'll do the demo on the beta version, which is instead beta.nrmaps.openaire.eu, because there we are experimenting with some cool functionality to link the gateway to the visualization tool. So how do we do it? We start from the OpenAIRE research graph. It is a big collection of metadata records describing entities of the research lifecycle, publications, datasets, organizations, software, projects, funders, funding streams, and so on. And these entities are linked to each other and form, as the name says, a graph. And OpenAIRE builds the graph by aggregating metadata records from many different sources worldwide. You can see a subset of these sources here on the right. So we have Crossref DataCite, the open access journals from DOIJ. We have arXiv, which is a preprint archives. We have national aggregators, we have institutional and thematic repositories, we have projects from Cordis and so the European Commission, but also from other national and international funders. And at the end, we have a graph with more than 120,000 publications and 12 million datasets. And you can guess that it's hard for a community to find what's relevant in this literature and data deluge. So this is why we offer a community view, the slice of the graph that is relevant for the research community in the field of energy. As you can see in the slide, the OpenAIRE research graph is not simply the results of collecting metadata from thousands of sources. OpenAIRE also finds and merges duplicate records. So for example, the preprint and the published version of an article appear as one object with two versions, so that when we do statistics, for example, we only count it once. We also run enrichment algorithms on the metadata and on the full text of open access publications to enrich the graph with inferred links and properties like subject classification, links to projects, to patents, to data sets, and also other things. And eventually, the graph is made available via different OpenAIRE portals, including explore.openaire.eu and the NR Maps Gateway. And it's also analyzed to offer statistics to funders and national agency via the OpenAIRE Monitor and the Open Science Observatory. So let's go back to the NR Maps Gateway. The community managers or community curators, as we want to call them, they have access to an administration dashboard of the gateway through which they can configure the criteria of inclusions. So we apply the configuration on the OpenAIRE research graph to identify the products of the community, and those are made available on the portal and on the API, and they are also published on Zenodo, so that if someone wants to get the metadata, they are reachable, they're publicly available on Zenodo. And as you can imagine, the inclusion criteria are very important to ensure a good coverage of the gateway in terms of available research products to discover. And the role of community managers is therefore crucial. And they are expert in the field. It's not me, because I'm a computer scientist. I don't know really about energy research. So what we do is that experts in the fields, which are members of the NR Maps project, actually provide the configuration. And they can give a list of keywords, a list of project grants, thematic repositories and journals, thematic Zenodo communities, and organizations that are working in the field. However, also the simple users of the gateway can contribute to grow the record of the research output of the community, and they can add missing products and missing links between the products using the link functionality. Then we have the OpenAIRE algorithms. So one is called the propagation algorithm, and it basically propagates the fact that a product is relevant for the energy field because it has a relationship with another product that is known to be relevant in the energy field. So for example, if a publication is relevant because one of the other criteria and it is supplemented by a dataset, then also the dataset is relevant for the energy field, and so on. Then we have the full text mining algorithms. So they looked in the abstract and full text of open access publications, and they identify new information that is not explicitly available in the metadata. So links to projects, affiliations, document classifications, relevant research infrastructures, related data, and other. And this is all information that we can exploit to identify the products of the community. Now that you know how it is made, it's time to discover how it can help you. So at the beginning, I mentioned a set of open science practices, and now we'll see how the gateway can help you with those. So if you think, if you're interested into a specific aspect or a specific tool, just write on the chat. I cannot read it now that I'm sharing my screen, but we will read it after, and maybe we can go through that specific aspect when we do the live demo. So let's start from the open access publishing. So the gateway features deposit functionality that you can use to find open access repositories, open repositories and open access journals that you can use to deposit openly any types of research products. And also Zenodo can be used for deposition. Zenodo is catch-all repositories provided by OpenAIRE. And the content in Zenodo can be organized in communities, in discipline-specific communities. So the gateway curators have selected a set of Zenodo communities that are relevant for the energy field and that you can use in order to publish any results you have and make it available to the to your community. And the gateway also helps you with the publisher and journal policies, because we have an integration with the JISC Sherpa Romeo service, so that you know what kind of version of the paper you can openly publish and which not. As a side note, I would like to mention that if you have data with sensitive personal information, you can still publish it with open access, right? Provided you anonymize it properly. And this can be done by Amnesia, which is one of the services provided by OpenAIRE. Another important practice is to provide rich metadata and link research products with each other, contributing to the complete record of research. And the gateway offers you the link functionality. You can use it to add to the gateway any missing products, or to create links between products and between products and projects. And you can also link the products to your ORCID ID, or you can also add annotation, because we have integration with the EUDAT B2Note annotation service. So if you're interested, we can showcase these integrations later on. So let's go to FAIR data and data reuse. So the main functionality of the gateway is the search functionality, and it can be used to search any type of research products. And you will also see a dedicated tab to discover the data sets selected by the NRMAPS project. And we will go through this feature in the demo. So data management plans, of course, you can search for them, but I would also like to mention that one of the OpenAIRE service is Argos, and you can use it to create your own data management plans. There are several templates that you can use, But the important thing is that from within Argos, the DMP can be automatically published on Zenodo and made available on OpenAir and on the Enermaps gateway. Last but not least, for project managers. So you will find a dedicated page in the gateway for your project. We don't have all the funders in the world, but we cover FP7, H2020, many national funders. So you can go there and try to find your project. And in that page, can be used to track the outputs, to get some statistics and access to some useful tools like the HTML code that you can embed in the project website to get and display the list of outputs. You can download a report in CSV. And also, let me mention that OpenAir is integrated into the European Commission system for grant management, SIGMA. So the list of publications and datasets is fetched by Sigma and proposed as suggestions to be included in the continuous reporting. Okay, so I think it's time for the live demos. So let me go here. I don't know.
Thank you so
Julia,
much, Alessia. I just shared in the chat the link to the beta gateway so everyone can join.
Perfect. And are there any questions to be addressed?
For now, not in the chat. I don't know if we don't have many participants in these breakout rooms. Maybe if you want to interact directly, you can just unmute yourself and ask if you have any questions.
Okay, perfect. So I will start the demo, and yes, I see we are 5, so really we can do it very interactively.
So Alessia,
don't be shy.
I do have a question as I imagine myself as a user of the gateway. So if I've published a paper and I've published it on a publisher website that has a paywall, can I still appear on open access, on OpenAir? And then if my paper is on an energy topic, can I still appear on Enermaps? And will that give me access to potentially a wider audience?
Yes, this is possible. As I was saying, the metadata that, I mean, we get all metadata from Crossref, and Crossref is the main agency that is used by publisher to give PIDs to their publications. So what happens is that we get the metadata from Crossref, and we may make this available on the gateway. Of course, I mean, the availability of this publication on the gateway does not mean that you can access the full text freely, because anyway,
of course,
I mean, the
people
publication
will
is
know
closed.
People will know that I have published that paper. So the papers are not saved on OpenAir and on Enermaps. We reference papers that remain on the proprietary website, which gives access to an incredibly wide availability of papers because we're only linking them.
Yes, indeed. So for example, here, okay, let me start. So here is the homepage of the gateway, and you have the different tabs for the different products. So for example, if you're searching for publications, you can simply go here and view all. And on the left, you will have some filters that you can use to drill down your search, or you can also type keywords and do searches like you would do on Google Scholar, basically. So let's take this one, for example. You see, we have, in this case, we have an open paper, but still, you know, from Crossref, we don't know if it's open or not. So we know that comes from the Energy Journal, and we know that Lirias is providing an open access version of this. So even if the paper is closed, it could be the case that we find a preprint or a postprint that is open. So we put them together, And even if there is a paywall for the published version, you have access to the open one. So if we go back to the homepage here, yes, you have these tabs, but you also have an overview of the configuration that has been done. So you have the list of subjects that were selected, and you can click on view all to list them all, because there are much more than this. You have the projects relevant for the energy field. And here again, if you click on it, you get the list of projects, and you can know which are the funders that are involved. There's another community I was mentioning before. So again, 50 Zenodo communities were selected. And basically, now probably my connection is not very good. But in any case, here you have the list of the Zenodo communities and basically a link that you can follow to go directly on Zenodo and deposit your providers. So the content providers can be repositories, can be journals, can be thematic sources, and so on. And these are all sources that provide content that is relevant for the domain of energy. As for the search, you have the simple search, like the Google-like search, but you can also use the advanced one. In this case, you are, so for example, I can try my surname. I don't think, let's see, and I don't know, and subject energy. I don't know what I will find. Let's see.
Yeah, because the fine-tuning of the gateway is very important. I know you've been working for months on this to be able to have enough subjects to cover the widest variety of publications or research outcome, but have them tailored to leave out everything that is not energy relevant. So it's progressively, increasingly defined work. You keep adding subjects and taking them out and changing them, right?
Yes, because one problem with the subject is the problem you mentioned at the beginning. You know, that there are some keywords, some subjects that are common in different fields. So I started the gateway with a very, naive option, energy. And then I discovered that, yes, I mean, dark energy, energy physics. I say, okay, no, this is not the way to go. So, and with the help of the other project members, we were able to come up with a pretty good and specific list. But still, the fine-tuning is continuous, basically, because continuously OpenAIRE has new data sources, for example, new journals, new repositories that join the OpenAIRE network. And this means that they may bring additional keywords, or they may bring, or they may be thematic, so they need to be added to the configuration directly. So
yeah, I'm thinking, for instance,
it should be a community effort to take it forward.
I'm thinking to some keywords that can be very tricky. If you think of fuel cells, you can have a lot of biology and anatomy papers that talk about what elements are fueling the processes within a human cell or within any sort of other cell. And so if you're not focused on energy, you can find a lot of papers and publications that use those keywords but are not relevant. In the meantime, Alessia, we're getting some questions in the chat. Can I just read them to you?
Yes, please.
Robbie Morrison is asking if the gateway supports SPDX license identifiers.
Thank you for the question. No, not yet, meaning that basically the sources from which we collect is mostly a network of repositories, and they are compliant to the OpenAIRE guidelines. So unfortunately, most of them are still compliant to an old version of the guidelines where the license was not mandatory. So in most cases, we have no license at all. But the sources that are more up to date, the guidelines do provide license, and they are usually the URLs to the license. So the CC BY URLs. So let me check it with you now. So guidelines 4. Okay, license condition. So this is the field where we expect to have the information about the license, and yes, we expect a URI, which can be, of course, the SPDX URI, but not necessary.
Mm-hmm. We also have another question in the chat. Are content providers only journals? Or what about software repositories, for instance, GitLab and GitHub?
Okay, no, we also have software repositories. So let's see what we have here for NR content provider. So we take it from Zenodo, we have Figshare, we have CodeOcean, for example. Let's see if, okay, in your case, GitHub, we don't have software from GitHub, but in general, we have it, meaning that if you go and search for the software on OpenAIRE, or well, actually, we can search for the content providers directly. Sorry. We can search for the content providers. We have different type, and one type is software repository. So we have software heritage, Lower Code, BioTools, but we which are the main repositories, let's say. We also have things from GitHub, but the fact is that often if we create links from applications or a datasets to a link on GitHub, after some months, after some years, the link, because it expired, because it changed, because the repository on GitHub closed. So what we do is to prefer to link to software heritage, which is a big initiative. Let's think about an internet archive for the software, so that they basically maintains on time all the URLs, all the paths, all the content of all the software that is available on GitHub, on Google Code, and on Bitbucket, and so on. So it could be the case that we have the software from software heritage rather than directly from GitHub.
Maybe a follow-up question. We tend to archive our code for GitHub tags on Zenodo, because Zenodo has a nice integration to GitHub tags. Would those show up?
Yes, they're supposed to show up, because Zenodo and the OpenAIRE portals are connected. So basically, whenever you deposit something on Zenodo, it goes directly also on the OpenAIRE portals. Now, they can go in the NRMaps gateway as well, only if we know that this software is related to the energy field. So it depends on the metadata he has. And for example, if you deposit, if you deposit your software in one of the communities that were selected, then it should come straight away also in the gateway. So for example, if you upload something in the Zenodo community for wind energy, yes, I think this morning Zenodo is not well behaved. Okay, but if you upload something in a specific community that is linked to the Enermaps gateway, then you should see it straight away. Okay, so I would like now to show you the featured datasets tab. So these will contain the datasets that have been selected by the Enermaps project. So our colleagues make a huge effort trying to clear the IPR, trying to clarify which is the license. So these 24 data sets that you see here are only a subset of those that the project planned to have. This is because we are still trying to contact the producer of the data, trying to understand if we can somehow use it in the gateway and in the visualization tool. So here you have basically an easy access path to these created data sets. So in some cases, you will also have an image that is let's say a preview of the data sets. And we can see the details if we click on it. So you have some details about the data sets, you have the generic information, you have the link to Pangea, which is the data repositories from which it was collected. And you have this Enermaps tool tab, where in addition to the preview, which is a static image, not really useful, you have the link to the Enermaps tool, so that you can actually go there and see the data in the proper way. And you have additional metadata that was manually created by the Enermaps partner. So, you know, OpenAIRE is a cross-discipline initiative, so it's generic. So we don't have a possibility to include in all our metadata the specific fields for each specific research community. So this was a way to give visibility to specific information that is useful to researchers to understand if this data set is useful for their research or not. So for example, the temporal granularity, the temporal coverage, and the type of file, these are all things that is probably useful if you want to reuse the data. And as I said, by clicking here, you go to the visualization tool, and you can do whatever an energy researcher knows what to do. So this is not my case. And
just a little disclaimer concerning the visualization tool. So it has been released recently. If you have already seen HotMaps, you will see a similarity because this is an evolution of HotMaps. So you have this visualization tool for explicit geolocalized data. On the left here, you can see all the data sets that are available for now. You can select the geographic level at which you want to select one or more boxes. You can also have a geometrical selection independent from the NUTS level or the this city level is an LAU2. And here on the top right, you have a button to access the calculation modules. It will be 6 in the end. There is 1 released for now. And on the top, you have a menu bar with a number of links to the wiki, to OpenAIRE, to Kialo, and more. Alessia, what do you think if we went back to the gateway and did together some practical exercises?
Yes.
I am a publisher and I want to give visibility to my publication. If I am a researcher and I want to look for publications that I will use for my own research, if I'm looking for new software, or the difference between all the research outcomes that are not publication and the research outcome that are publication. I leave it up to you. You are the master of the gateway.
Okay. So, so what would like the participant to do, for example, since we are 5, it would be nice to know what they, I don't know, if they have a search pattern that they usually follow when they're searching for publications, or.
First of all, to the participants of this room, were you already familiar with OpenAIRE? Is that a website that you use usually when you're looking for publications, or you go on Scopus or Science Direct or Google Scholars? Have you already published yourself some papers? Would you like to see if you can find yourself on the gateway? Or if you are familiar with some publications that you have used recently, if you can find them quoted in on the gateway, although they might not be open access.
So many good questions. So I personally don't go to OpenAIRE for my daily work, just not inside my workflow. I don't know about the others. So for me, this, I don't know, it feels a bit like an alternative to Scopus, Google Scholar, Semantic Scholar, whatever, just with the added benefit of having data linked and being able to explicitly search for data sets. Other than that, I still kind of am missing some practical application. But that might just be limited experience with the platform. I do wonder if I do have a geospatial reference data set and I want to include it, or I want to provide people the opportunity to explore it themselves without downloading it, without using a GIS application locally, could I, in principle, add the data set somehow into the NR maps?
This is a possibility that is still under scrutiny, because that would be possible during the life of the project. After, in the afterlife of the project, a data set to be added to the visualization tool would have to be reworked, because the data sets that are now in the visualization tool have basically, they have been depivoted, they have been harmonized, they have been reworked, and they have been quality checked. What you can do is that you can create a GitHub page and put there your data set in a format that is compatible with the format of the data sets that are already on the visualization tool. Another thing that you could do is that you can make it available so that other users can download it and then upload it on their Hotmaps page, because Hotmaps is another platform that is completely open access. Alessia, is OpenAIRE really an alternative to Scopus and Google Scholar and the non-open access platforms, or is that actually overlapping with them?
Oh, okay. Yeah. We are somehow competitors. Yeah. Yes. We are embracing an open philosophy that they are not embracing. But of course, in some cases, they they might have a higher coverage for the
Mhm.
closed access publications, because of course they have let's say agreements with the publishers that that we don't have. So they are able somehow to grasp more information from the full text of closed publications, and we cannot do it because
Well, you have
they're closed.
decided to not give in to the dark side of publications, so
But so yeah, on the other hand, we have this network of repositories from all over Europe that is not available in Scopus. So
Mhm.
we also have all the gray literature. We have the reports, all the deliverables. We have even the posters or the presentations
Mhm.
that the researchers uploaded on the institutional website. So we may lack of the full text of non-open access publications,
Mhm.
but in fact we have the preprint, the postprint, and all these different materials that is not available. So
Well, that's already a lot, because honestly, when I'm developing some research and I'm writing a paper and I need to understand if a paper that I'm considering for my literature, for my references, is interesting or not, I don't always read the full text. I usually go to the preprint, I have a look at the paper, at the abstract, at their charts, and I get a first idea if I really want to read it or not, because you have to go through so many papers that you can't read them all. Then you make a selection, then you see which ones you read, and then you see which ones you actually use, and then you reference in your work. So that's already a lot. I'd say it's a good start. For it's actually more useful than having access to the full text, because sometimes you just don't read it. And it's also, I find it very energy efficient that you are only linking to the papers that are stored on only one repository, because if you start making copies of all the documents that are online, the amount of energy that we're going to use for storing all this information is just going to slip out of our hands.
we want to give credit also to the repository who made an amazing work in keeping the scholarly communication ecosystem up and running, and
Yeah,
all the
also,
university association. So this is a way we want to support their work, and sending the users to their website, to their landing page. It's a way that it's really important for their sustainability as well.
yeah, I find that very interesting. It's a very positive externality of the project, because you actually increase the traffic on the websites of other publishers, because you're opening up the science, not only the one that is already open access, but all the science that is reachable through OpenAIRE.
So you did mention gray literature. Where's the line? Where do you draw the line between gray literature and stuff available on the internet?
So gray literature is typically intended as documents that were not published in journals or similar venues. So if you have, for example, a technical report that was made available via your institutional repository, this is considered gray literature. If instead you have the postprint of a journal paper in your institutional repository, that is not really considered gray literature, because it's a version of a published paper. So what we do is that we are trying our best to identify the specific types of the objects that we have. So when you search for publications, or even if you search for data sets, on the left you have a filter that allows you to find the different types that we have. Maybe I can share my screen again. Okay, so here I'm in publications, and you see this type filter. And you see that we have articles, we have conference objects, which can also be, for example, PowerPoint presentations, posters. Then we have part of book or chapters, preprints, we have reports or other literature type, which means that we were not able to understand what they are. Because in fact, when we, by aggregating such a high number of sources, that there is always someone who's not 100% let's say correct in the typing of its object. And this is especially true for big sources, like, for example, Crossref itself.
So it could be a book chapter, it could be an executive summary, it could be a flyer. It could
Yes.
be
Yes.
all other sorts of publications, it could be an infographic.
Yes, it could be an infographic, and the same we do also for data sets, of course.
So okay, I get that. The question was motivated by kind of the issues we do have in an energy research field, that sometimes we're not only relying on publications or some type of literature related to a research project, but white papers from industry consortia, or actually disputes on Twitter, which then include really valuable discussion, which is, you know, like, it's not the traditional stuff linked to research projects. It's not the traditional form of publication, but it's certainly something you can dig out or get out of the internet by very well placed Google search. But for example, let's go over a concrete example, the European Hydrogen Backbone publication, which was last year, which is a really in-depth report, which a lot of people are at least comparing against their own research, or using some of the numbers from the project, which is, I don't think, related to science and traditional research institutions at all, but simply done from a industry perspective, mainly for policy makers, but is being reused in research. Would this type of literature, or let's call it text, appear anywhere in there?
Well, let's say that the records that we have must come from a scholarly communication source. So, for example, blogs or tweets or these kind of things are really out of our content acquisition policy. But if the researcher, for example, register records its blog in its institutional repository, then we have, let's say, an official academic entry for it, and this may come into OpenAIRE as a blog entry.
So
But we don't go in the wild and find things. This is the crucial thing, because this is a matter also of accountability and of trust of what you see in the gateway.
Thank you so much, Alessia. If there are no more questions, I see that the other breakout room just closed, and actually it's 10:36, so the welcome and in the plenary session of the MP conference already started. I would just thank you for your participation and close the recording of this session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.